Have you guys ever watched a film that had you looking at the screen like the entire time? Because I just got back from seeing The Substance. I don't typically do movie reviews on this account or movie thoughts because every time I've done it, the video has flopped hard. But I'm going to talk about The Substance in this because that film was mental. But the point of this video isn't going to be that. We're going to get into some other stuff. Just bear with me, okay? While I just ramble on for a few minutes because so for those that don't know, I go to the cinema maybe once, twice a week, pretty frequently anyway. I see pretty much everything that comes out that I'm interested in. I'm an Odeon Limitless member and have been for like 5 years, so we go a lot. We don't live very far away. It's just something we do through the week. So another passion of mine is films. Like obviously, you can see over there, I have well over 1,000 movies. I have more movies than I do games, but it's the game stuff that took off before the movie stuff. And I'm kind of bad with films in that I very rarely see a film and go, I didn't like that. Because what happens is, the amount of times in my life I've watched a film and then like I do with everything, I go on the internet and I'm like, right, what does everybody else think? Let's watch a retrospective. And everybody often hates what I like. It happens all the time. But The Substance was a film that we initially were not going to see because of the fact that well, first of all, it was barely showing. I think initially they didn't. So my Odeon in specific has a bit of a problem where it'll advertise films and then not show them at all sometimes, like full stop. There's been a few horror films this year that just did not show in our Odeon, which was really annoying. But this one in particular, it only had like 3 showings, like 1 showing a day, and then for like 3 days. But then I think the reviews came out for the film and everybody loved it. It's one of them films that you walk out of it and you're just like, oh my god, what have I actually just witnessed? It's one of those films. And because of that, I think they've put on way more showings. Like there's a couple of showings now every day for the next 2 weeks. So it ended up not being as big of a stress as we thought it was going to be to actually go and see it. Because typically we go to the cinema on a Sunday. We don't like going in the week usually, because if you go in the week, you're often then exposed to the sorts of people that don't belong in the cinema in the first place. The sorts of people that think it's okay to speak out loud and go on their phone during the film. You know, the sort of people that need shooting. But yeah, The Substance. So how do I describe this? So possible spoilers for The Substance. If you guys are even slightly interested in seeing The Substance, do go. If you're not even interested, but you like horror films, you like gore, you like body horror, practical effects, that sort of thing, you just want to watch a film that'll have you a little bit shocked a lot, go and see it. So there's potential spoilers from here on in terms of that film. So basically, the whole point of the film is that we are following a celebrity that is about to basically be dumped from every role she has. She's done. But realistically, she should be pretty happy that she's done because she's like 60. She still looks great. Everybody thinks she looks great. She's as accomplished as they come. She's got an Oscar, I think they said. She has a Hollywood star of fame, like a penthouse apartment. Like, she's got life perfect. But in her mind, everything isn't perfect because what happens is immediately after she is fired from the roles that she has just had, they put out an article in the newspaper looking for her replacement, and it specifically has to be a woman that is 18 to 30. And this then gets in our main character's head, played by Demi Moore, where she wishes she was more perfect. Now, she has a car accident, and after the car accident, one of the nurses, he says to her, "You'd be a good candidate," and she's like, "What?" And from then on, he hands her a card. She rings the number, and it's like, "Well, if you want the substance, this substance can give you the perfect you." But there's rules. So what happens is they inject this substance, and then the same way a cell would divide, she divides. And this is where it gets gory straight away. Just straight away, it's like, oh my god, this is how we're doing this, eh? I thought it was just going to be she herself would de-age and that would keep flipping back and forth, but no, that is not how this happens. Again, right, actual spoilers now, so yeah. Her back cracks in half, opens up, and the younger version of herself climbs out, and she's just there open on the floor, back a chasm. The younger version then has to sew her body up, seal it back up, and then to stabilize herself each day to not start falling apart, essentially, she has to inject herself with spinal fluid from the original body. So the rules of this transformation thing is that the whole point is you transfer consciousness. It is one shared consciousness between the two bodies, the current version of yourself and the younger version of yourself. And you only have 7 days each time you change. You have to change back into the other version of yourself every 7 days. So what the character does is they create this little panic room style thing in the back where whichever version of herself she currently isn't, that physical body is just in there. Now, they also have to hook up a food drip so that they don't starve to death, but basically what ends up happening is, as you can imagine, she much prefers being the younger version of herself, and each time she is the older version of herself, the she becomes more distant between the two. There's a phone line that they can ring to be like a helpline for the substance, and the guy on the other end's like, remember, you are one person, because she is supposed to be one person. It is one consciousness between the two. It isn't two different people. But there's something wrong with this person's psyche where she starts to feel like they're two different people, and the older version of herself, every time she is stuck in that version for a week, gets jealous of what's going on with the young person, because the young person is becoming the new major celebrity. And then the younger version starts being like, right, I want to stay as this version for longer than a week. But what happens is there are consequences to that. There is a specific reason that it is a week. Because after a week, the original body starts decaying, but will still not die. So at one point during the end of the film, first of all, the first time, it's just a few hours over the 7-day period before switching back that they stay. And when she finally does switch back, permanently one of her fingers has gone like necrotic and gross and horrible looking. She calls the helpline. It's like, any changes are permanent, respect the balance. The whole point is that nothing bad happens as long as every 7 days you change back into the other version. But this is just not what they're doing. And at one point in the film, the younger version stays the younger version for 3 months. And then you're just like, oh my god, what is this? What is she going to look like when we get back to the original version? Because if just a few hours caused an entire finger to just decay and corrode, and that's where the real body horror comes in. Like, this is, if you like The Thing or anything, any film like that, you will like this. This was a good film. This was, I didn't know what to expect going into this. I knew that it got really good reviews, and I knew that it was going to be a bit of body horror. I knew that. I just didn't know how they were going to go about it. And every time you thought, right, this is the peak of what they're gonna do to like drop your jaw on the floor, they go a bit further. They kept going a bit further to the point where it's just like, oh my god, what is happening right now? So this is, if you go and see one film, see that. The only possible complaint I have for the film is potentially it was a little bit long, in that for the first, say, 2 hours of the film, I had no idea where in the film I was, which is always a brilliant sign. Like, that is, when you don't know how long you've been watching a film, that is a good sign that it is well paced and that you have been sucked into whatever story it is that you are watching. But there comes up again. Okay, so we're talking full spoilers now, so I suppose I'll just say it. There comes a point where both versions are awake at the same time, and the younger version kills the older version, and at that point, that's where the story feels like it's about to end, but there's still another 20-25 minutes or so of the film left, which it just goes completely off the rails for. But like, that section is like, it felt like the film was going to end 20 minutes ago. That is perhaps the only drawback, is the film potentially could have been a little bit shorter, but other than that, that is about it. The film was pretty cool. But yeah, so watch the film. 8 minutes of rambling on film talk, so if you didn't like film talk, sorry, but it's something I'm also quite passionate about. Anyway, next up, we have a bit of a problem. I've ordered a game, and it doesn't... I've ordered it from eBay, from not England, and it was supposed to be delivered today. I'm pretty sure I said that in a video yesterday, and it didn't come. And I'm a bit annoyed. But then, at 3 o'clock in the morning yesterday, I got an email saying there has been an exemption. It is being held. It's being held at customs. And I was like, I've paid the customs fee. What's the problem? And it doesn't say what the problem is, but it's being held. And it's a multi-100-pound game. So I'm like, this is concerning. And I was like, how have we gone from it's going to be delivered to me today to it's still not even in the country on the same date that it was supposed to be delivered? I don't understand that. So it turns out that it wanted me to collect it. It was like, we can't deliver it. I'm like, right, okay, but I can't collect it from another country. So I had to pick like a UPS drop-off point somewhere near me. And it says that it's going to get it there for next week. So somehow we've lost a week in transit with this game. And I don't quite understand how that's happened. But I suppose, what's another week for a game that's just gonna... Yeah, we'll see. At this point, though, I think the game has cost me more than if I had bought it from CEX, due to the fact that I had to pay like £80 import fee. Never mind the price of the game itself, plus like foreign transaction fees. But yeah. So what else did I have to tell you about? There was like one other thing I was going to talk about. Oh yeah, remasters and remakes. This probably deserves its own video at this point, especially because I've been waffling for a while. But like, Horizon Zero Dawn is apparently getting a remake, and somebody in my comment section on TikTok said that Horizon Zero Dawn needs a remake because compared to Horizon Forbidden West, it looks ancient. And I can't even slightly understand that thought process, not even a little bit. How are we looking at a game from the PS4, a PlayStation exclusive from the PS4, no less, which typically means a prettier than average game in the first place, and say that it looks ancient? That is absurd. It feels condescending to say, and I get told it's condescending to say, but it has to be factually accurate to say that the only sort of person that could ever say that is somebody incredibly young. There's no other way that this is possible, because anybody that played games during the PlayStation 2 or the PlayStation 3 era, there's no world in which you could look at a game like Horizon Zero Dawn and say that it is ancient graphically. Like, there's no way. An example of real, actual, ancient graphics in comparison with like a modern sequel to that same game would be Tomb Raider's franchise. Tomb Raider is a great franchise to make this comparison with. So an interesting comparison I like to make when it comes to helping people understand the difference between graphics that are potentially not into gaming, or at least helping people that are into gaming understand that the differences are not as big as they think they are, is if you were to take somebody that hasn't really got any idea about gaming, say my mother, and compare, say, Horizon Zero Dawn on one TV and Horizon Forbidden West on another, she would not be able to tell you which one was the newer game. She just would not. However, if I was to put Tomb Raider, the original one from the PlayStation 1, and then Tomb Raider from, say, Tomb Raider Legends on the PlayStation 2, and then Tomb Raider Definitive Edition for PS4/PS5, and put them on 3 monitors, even my mother, who, again, knows nothing, your average general population person would be very clearly able to tell that those are from different generations of gaming just because of how far graphics came in each one of those steps. That is not something that we have happen now. We are past the point of diminishing returns when it comes to graphical improvements, and I think we should be probably focusing way more on performance. Like with the topic of the PS5 Pro, if the PS5 Pro dares come out and we still have to, on games on that console, choose between performance and fidelity, that entirely defeats the point of the console in my eyes. Like, surely on the Pro version of a console, we shouldn't have to choose between having the prettiest graphics or having a stable 60 FPS. We should be capable of having both. Come on now. Especially when a lot of the games are not really running at 4K in the first place. It's crazy to me that we're still having to make that decision, especially on modern consoles. So hopefully the PS4 Pro gets rid of that. Not that I'll know, because I'm not buying one, but that would be a potential selling point if it did come out. But I still don't think that will be the case. I still think that even on the PS4 Pro, people are probably still going to have to decide between prettier or better performance, and that is nuts to me. But yeah, if we're talking about games that need a remaster in reality, I think that we should be giving remasters to games that are just stuck on the hardware they released on. Like, there are so many good PS2 and PS3 games that you can't play modern day very easily that could do with a port to bring them up to modern era. Not even a ground up remake that costs millions and millions and millions in infinite amounts of time. Just a quick, upscale and port them over. Like, the PlayStation 3 did upscaled ports pretty well for some games. Like, The Warriors was ported over pretty nicely. As much as people hate on them sometimes because they're hardcore fanatics of the original franchises, the Classics HD lineup for the PlayStation 3 had some pretty good PS2 remasters in there. The Prince Persia trilogy, the Ratchet and Clank trilogy, Hitman, what else? Metal Gear Solid, all of those. You don't tend to get those anymore. If we had some PS5 Classic HD lineup games for some PS3 games, that'd be pretty cool. Especially because PS3 is probably the hardest console to bring to modern day just because of the weird architecture of the games. Realistically, this is something that Xbox does way better than the PS3 does, or the PlayStation does, due to the fact that for the majority of Xbox 360 titles, so PS3 adjacent, you can just put them into a Series X or an Xbox One and they just work. It is crazy that we can't do that with PlayStation, and in which case those are games that potentially do need remakes and remasters. There are some games that have not received remakes, remasters even slightly in any way, shape or form that I would love to see get remakes, and to be fair, that is a video I think I'm going to do at some point this week. I'm going to go through my shelves and pick maybe 5 games that are stuck on the consoles they released on that I would love to see just a HD remake or remaster for. A lot of people will say Simpsons Hit and Run and things like that, but I think mine might be a little bit different. We'll see. So yeah, game has potentially gone missing, a very expensive one. Horizon Zero Dawn doesn't need a remaster. The PS5 Pro better be better than it looks, and go and see the substance. And if you guys haven't already, do subscribe and I'll see you later.